Hello, gear nerds of the internet. Welcome to my channel, the worst channel on YouTube. We're going to talk about the Dynaco Pass 3X. The number 3X implies that there were at least two, and there's actually three iterations previous to this one. I'm not familiar with the Pass 1. The Pass 2 is, I believe, identical to the Pass 3, except this faceplate, which is what the... Sorry about that. I wanted to get ahead of the furnace, making furnace noises. What was I saying? Difference between the Pass 2 and the Pass 3, or PAS, whichever you want to do. I'm not going to tell you how to live. I will probably intermittently change them for no apparent reason. So, Pass 2 had, I think, like a coppery gold faceplate. This one is a aluminum faceplate. The difference between the 3 and the 3X, this being the 3X, we'll talk about that when we get to these guys. But so it is a tube stereo preamplifier. Let's talk about the functions. It has a special input. I believe that is a input for low volume, low output devices, similar to phono, but I'm not sure if it's exactly the same as phono. Tape head, which I guess is just like at this point an aux input. Phono, which is a moving magnet phono stage. And then these three, FM, A, AM, B, FM, MPX, and spare. Those would also at this point just be aux inputs. You have a volume knob. Volume is kind of disappearing. You have a somewhat confusing switch here. And so what this does is, as you can see, this has like incrementally smaller bars. This, for some reason, I don't know why they would have designed it this way, but this is if you want to make your stereo image crappier. The larger it is, the more spread out it is, and then incrementally smaller. I don't know why you'd want that. Let's skip A and B for a second. A would be the A channel, which we'll talk to you, because it's not really labeled right and left. It's labeled A and B. B being, I'm going to guess A is the left and B is the right, but maybe I have a 50-50 chance. Just like Josh Allen had at winning the playoff game. 50-50 chance. I'll probably be wrong like him. B will only play the B channel. A will only play the A channel, or the left and the right. And then this combines them both. So, the difference between this and like stereo is that stereo image, you have your channel here and your channel here. What this does is it merges that and then just comes out of both speakers rather than having any sort of stereo separation. Where you probably want to keep that is right there. I mean, this comes in for testing purposes, but aside from that, I don't really see a purpose. Balance is, that'll go to the left, that'll go to the right. Center is centered. Some people have rooms that don't quite work out for us, like me. I could use a balance pot in my life. Or maybe you have kind of a crappy device that's not really completely separate or equal on both sides. You can modify it. Seems pretty self-explanatory. Then you have some equalization. So what's unique about the X is that when you get to the center on these, it will actually negate the control altogether, theoretically. That's what I'm told on the internet, and the internet is never wrong. That's why you're here, to get some not wrong information. So you got 4 of those. And the way that you can tell if this is the X or the non-X, just the pass 3 or the pass 3X, is I don't know if you see that, but pay attention to how far this pot sweeps from one side to the other. It's not quite as far as you would expect. Like if you look at this, oh, that goes way far down. That one not so far down. Oh, it goes way further down there. Not so far there. So that's the easy way to tell if you have the X or not. This is where someone cut a hole in there, and I put this little metal hole cover. This is your on-off switch. This is a low, mid, high pass filter. It takes off just an extreme amount of treble in case you have, I don't know, some sort of oscillation at that level. I don't know. The pass is weird. Things would happen. Loudness is an antiquated concept of you might want to listen at low volumes, and then maybe your bass and highs aren't quite accentuated enough. You can turn that on and it will make things a little bit more lively. This is tape versus input. There's a, I don't know, there must be something on the back that I didn't even think to look that one up. Who cares? Tape is antiquated too. Let's look at the back. As you can see, someone had a Sharpie and had to use it a lot. They really wanted to use that Sharpie. And then someone also, looks like they had a pencil. They had wanted to use that too. So, this is kind of, well, the reason they did that is because this is the, I mean, they didn't want to bother to look to the left here and see what these were, so they just wanted to write it with the Sharpie. So, I mean, you just have, you know, phono tape head, special, the spare tape amp. I don't know what that means. Again, lost to antiquity. Tape output, which I guess if you're sending something to tape to record it, that makes sense. And then your regular outputs, which someone has obviously modified and made nice. These are not nice. These are all corroded. But the nice thing about Dynaco is that you can buy replacement parts for these boards and just drop them in, solder them in, and you're good to go. And you can have actually gold-plated, or you could have it like this, where it's steel, or you could have gold-plated, whatever your heart desires, because people love Dynaco stuff, and you can still buy all the parts. Like these. Those things are, you know, if you have another device that you want to power up through this, some of them are switched. It would say here, if you could read it, some of them have switch, means it's turned on by the switch, and other ones just get power fed to them all the time. Which ones those are, I don't know, because I would never use that. Obviously at this point, someone named Mike at Audio Craftsman in San Diego, California had worked on this. I don't recommend calling him. He might not be there anymore. Hey Mike, if you're watching this, comment down below. Love to hear from you. And then you have your ground for your phono. Let's see if we can beat this video and get it done before my camera battery dies. Alright, so tube problems, vintage problems. This thing has been serviced not only by Mike, but by other people as well. I bought this from a guy who had it serviced. You can tell that it's been serviced because there are some new capacitors in there. You can also maybe see there's some new resistors. The other thing too is if you don't want to bother with taking, well, you got to know how to use one of these soldering iron. But you could buy these boards like relatively inexpensively. I believe you can get them both for under $100 fully populated without the tubes, I guess. You can then just drop them in, solder them in, and then you don't have to worry about these things drifting or going bad in the near future. Not forever, but at least for a little while. Has this electro can cap, the multi-section can cap that's old. Has two other caps. You have that. I believe that's a silicone rectifier. I don't know what that's used for. This, I believe, is a regular rectifier. So I can also maybe show you. So if you look at the dimpling, there's a dimple here and a dimple here on both of the treble pots. And then there's a dimple there and a dimple there on the bass pots. Now, if this were a regular pass-3, there would only be one dimple next to that center lug. But since it's a pass-X, it has two dimples on each. Just another helpful tip if you want to figure out if it's a pass-3 or pass-3X. The pass-3X is the one that people look for more often than the pass-3. Pass-3 seems to be a little bit more out there and easy to find. Let's talk about how it sounds. I find it to be very warm. I tried this with 3 different amplifiers. I tried it with my Elite80 from Ideal Innovations. It didn't sound so great. This was kind of really pushing the front end of that amp more than that amp prefers to have pushed. It didn't sound good. I tried it with my Schiit Vidar. It sounded nice. It normally when I'm testing gear, I will listen to a song or two and then switch so that it's in my head. When I plugged in the Vidar, it sounded nice. I wanted to just keep listening. I then also tried it with the Dynaco ST40. No, not ST40, ST70. There's a review for that. Go watch that. Maybe you came from that to watch this. I don't know. Now, the ST40 is, I would say, a warm amplifier. Then this is, I feel, also a warm amplifier for it. So I thought the combination of the two would be overly warm. Not the case. It actually sounded pretty nice. I find the EQ is a little hard to deal with, quite frankly. And having these set straight up, where they're basically out of the circuit for all intents and purposes, is the best way to go. These are really, you turn it a little bit and you get a lot of, the sound changes quite a bit. Quite dramatically. It's really hard to tune something in with it. I'd recommend just leaving them pointed straight up. The loudness switch does what it's supposed to do and doesn't sound very good as it does it, as do most loudness switches. This filter stuff, that's not necessary. Is this a good amplifier? If you like tinkering, it is. Any vintage amplifier is going to require more tinkering than a new one. Obviously, there's no warranty on this, as it's probably 50 years old. You're going to want to... if you really like tinkering, you can buy one that's completely used and abused, and, you know, just start swapping out stuff, right? Like, you swap out those two boards, you're going to be 90% there. You could replace this guy, sorry, my hand's in the way, that can cap, and then those two electrolytic caps. I don't know what the value is. I don't know. This is metal, I thought it was. And this thing is something. Feels like metal. I don't know. Doesn't look like metal. It looks like it would be foam, but it doesn't lift up. Anyway. But if you want to have one that's mostly an original shape, try to find one that's been serviced, similar to this one, where someone's actually gone through and, you know, had to replace a couple of things that went bad. Or, you know, replace the components yourself, the boards. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Vintage gear sounds nice, but is often a headache. Tube gear is often a headache, and at the risk of repeating myself from my ST70, why do I keep saying ST40? I don't know. Maybe because I had an ICO ST40? Was that an ST30? God, my memory's bad. What was I even talking about? Nonsense. Sounds good, sounds warm. Might be. It's not going to, have all the detail of a modern preamplifier. It's going to be warm. And, these things in this condition will go for around $500. You can't find a lot of tube preamps for $500, so maybe it's worth picking up. Mostly people are going to buy it to match with other Dynaco power amps like the ST70 or the ST120, which I believe is solid state. So yeah, check it out. Or don't. I don't know. Buy this or buy something else. Do whatever makes you feel happy. Just watch more videos and like and subscribe, because I need more subscribers. I'm out here, I'm doing work for you people, and you can't be bothered to subscribe. Sometimes you like it, a lot of times you don't like it, and you let me know what this guy, people love hitting this guy. Yeah, this one, sometimes. Depends on what it is. But, subscribe. That way you'll see more videos similar to this. And if it's annoying, subscribe anyway, and then just don't watch them. I would appreciate that. Thank you. Oh, and another thing before you subscribe, it has a top, and it's not well ventilated. Actually, it's not ventilated at all, other than, well, I can't see that. Than that guy. That's the only ventilation on it. But it doesn't get that hot. It's a lot of metal for a couple of small tubes. All right. See you next time. Thanks, Mike.